Hello, everyone. Today we're diving into rational religious ethics, and this will set us up beautifully for when we move into Aquinas in Catholicism and Al Ghazali in Islam. Both of these thinkers will push us to understand how reason and faith interact, especially when we think about ethics in business, society, and everyday life. So let's break this into three big ideas. The first one is think of life as kind of a game or as a test. Religious traditions tell us that we are born into this world with a purpose. The Greek word for this is philos, meaning the end goal or final purpose of a thing. And in this game, we have a clear goal, a set of rules, and a meaningful evaluation at the end, that is, after we die. But here's the twist. This isn't a competitive game where we're trying to beat other people. It's more like an infinite game or a positive sum game. We are competing against ourselves and trying to become the best version of who we are meant to be. Now, how does thinking of life as a game or test change the way that you might see your everyday decisions? Well, when you think of life this way, small decisions suddenly matter. They're no longer random or meaningless. How you treat others, how you manage your desires, how you respond to challenges, these are all part of the game, part of your moral training. It also means that winning isn't about beating someone else, it's about staying true to your purpose. Next part, let's talk about reason. You might wonder, if we have sacred texts or divine revelation, why do we need reason at all? Well, here's why. Even when we know that a text is true, we still need reason to understand it and apply it. Even if you are sure that your religious text is 100% accurate, you still have to make use of it. And just because you believe that God is perfect does not make you perfect. So, at the very least, you need a way to make sure that your understanding of the text is correct, and so you need reason. Take the commandment that's often translated as "thou shalt not kill." At first glance, that sounds like a blanket ban on all taking of life. But let's break it down. The original Hebrew word refers specifically to murder. That would be intentional, unjustified killing of a human being. We also cannot survive without taking life in some form, and that's because we can't photosynthesize. Plants and animals die so that we can live. And finally, the text itself includes animal sacrifices and legal penalties which do involve death. So, kill cannot mean no taking life at all. So, as you notice, the meaning of the text cannot be "thou shalt not kill." It must mean "thou shalt not murder." And we got that not from studying theology, we got it just by using reason. Theology, by the way, does back us up on this. Now here's another question for you to consider. Why might it be dangerous to read sacred texts without using reason? Because without reason, we risk misunderstanding the core message. We might get stuck in surface level interpretation that contradicts the deeper moral logic of the tradition. Reason helps us to align what's written with what is intended, and it allows us to apply these teachings wisely in situations that the original text never directly addressed. And here's something really important. The need to use reason to understand religious texts is no different from the need to use reason to understand secular texts. Any meaningful text, religious or not, especially when it's dealing with complex ideas, requires us to balance multiple pieces, make connections, and hold the big picture together. So, in that sense, there is nothing unique about religious texts when it comes to interpretation. They demand reason in exactly the same way that any deep or meaningful text does. Finally, part 3, let's talk about emotions. Religious traditions are fairly clear on this point. Emotions alone are not a trustworthy guide to moral action. Take the story of Cain and Abel. Cain is filled with jealousy because Abel's offering is accepted and his is not. But instead of reflecting or correcting himself, Cain lets his anger drive him, and so he murders his brother. This is a classic example of emotion unchecked by reason. Now consider, can you think of a time when following emotions led you to a bad decision? For example, maybe you've been in a heated argument where you said something cruel that you later regretted, and in that moment emotion took over and reason was pushed aside. Or perhaps, after an argument, you suddenly remembered a really good comeback that you should have used, but you forgot to. The reason why you forgot is because you were being very emotional at the time. Once you calmed down, once reason took over, you were able to figure out the comeback. Religious ethics teach us that while emotions are natural and important, they need to be filtered through reason so that we can act wisely. So the takeaway here is this: reason doesn't cancel emotion, it guides it. Without reason, emotions can push us into destructive or selfish behaviors, but with reason, emotions can be shaped into compassion, courage, and love. So let's bring it together. According to religious texts, life is a game or a test aimed at helping us reach our ultimate purpose as defined by those texts. The text gives us guidance, but we need reason to interpret and apply this guidance in our lives. And while emotions are powerful, they need reason to be directed towards the good. Otherwise, they become demonic or satanic. Now, this foundation is going to help us understand both Aquinas and Al-Ghazali, who will each show us how reason and revelation are supposed to work together in religious ethics, including when we apply those ideas to the world of business.